underneath the railroad itself. When the line was abandoned, the city of Chattanooga made the decision to remove the tunnel because why do you need it anymore? You don't. And then you have to think about maintenance and constant maintenance on that tunnel. Kind of off sleep on that point. There's more of the original railroad veering off to the left of us at this time to the wooded area. But listen for the whistle of our steam locomotive. I'll talk about the steam locomotive in great detail when we arrive at East Chattanooga, built in 1904, by the way. But when you hear that whistle, locomotive 630, that signals our approach to Whiteside Tunnel. This tunnel was constructed and eventually completed in 1858, pre-American Civil War, done completely by hand. Because you didn't have dynamite until 1867. The only alternative you have would be black powder. And a few years after the construction and initial operation, we have the American Civil War. And within the third year, 1863, specifically November 25th of 1863, fighting right above this tunnel, stretched all the way down below Orchard Knob, the Confederate Army of Tennessee, facing Sherman's assault coming from East Chattanooga, where we're traveling along our right-of-way right now. Tunnel only allows one train at a time to pass through, even though the Southern Railway had this line double-tracked, 2 lanes of rail. They had to build sidings. And hopefully, very hopefully, the 2-story tower and the individual up in the 2nd-story floor controlling the signaling and the switching would switch your train to the side so the other can come from the other side and pass through. That's the idea, right? 986 feet, almost 3 football fields long, completely done by hand, picks and shovels. You can imagine that. If you have your cell phone on you, you might want to pull that flashlight app up, hold it up the window, and see just how close the tunnel walls are to your train. You're okay today, I assure you. But you'll see there's only about 9.5.
You can reach out you can almost reach. You can reach out and touch it if it's glass.
Alexander Whiteside, never serving in the military, simply
nails like this.
He is the gentleman responsible for influencing the railroads to be brought in to Chattanooga, including the West Mid-Atlantic. Why is he trying to pass through?
Just getting out the tunnel.
However, there's an underground stream water system that runs along and behind the walls. And if you know anything about water, it can have foundation issues.
That makes Tennessee whiskey right there.
To soften rock sediment. So if they start digging that out properly, most likely what would happen is a complete cave-in of that structure. Notice how steep the terrain is on both sides of the corridor leading up to the Sharon Ridge and Whiteside Tunnel. So General Sherman had 17,000 men on November 25th of 1863. It looks like a pretty easy task to take the Confederate Army, break through their line here on the ridge because there's only about 6,500 to 7,000 men who have just gotten in position. Sherman hits the line 4 times, nearly breaking through, but does not break through because of the steep terrain. And remember, they're using the old Napoleonic-style front and rear range. Okay, you're trying to keep your formations together. It's almost impossible when you have steep terrain like that. General Sherman was very upset. And years later, I guess after he felt he was safe, one of his staff officers would say, "It was a steep disappointment for the general, and he would get feeling to it. He'd be feeling to his language of astonishing vivacity."
I'm trying through the mouth.
Being he cursed a lot, well, I'm sure.
Yeah, right.
Vivacity. Don't you use that word throughout the day. Vivacity. A plethora of vivacity. So what we're going to do, ladies and gentlemen, is we're going to do a double stop when we arrive at East Chattanooga, meaning we're going to allow some of our passengers to utilize the ramp, and then we'll pull up and allow everyone else to get off, okay? Consider it so special. By the way, if I hadn't talked about your coaches, the first 2 coaches, 832 was built in 1949 by the Bud Company, a very classic streamliner car that sings corrugated steel look. But all of our cars are lightweight coaches today. Now that doesn't mean they're real light, it just means they're lighter than the old heavyweight Pullman cars originally that were being built early on in railroad history. Nancy Hanks, too, by the way, talking back to 1961, in Central Georgia would operate each and every day in about 8 a.m., after perhaps, from Savannah, Georgia, traveling to Atlanta, 9 stops in between, less than 30 minutes to stop. If you didn't get on, you were left behind.
Oh, wow.
They would arrive in Atlanta, about 1:40. It would leave Atlanta and get back to Savannah just before the stroke of midnight. Now, a couple of things we're entering our East Chattanooga yard. Number one, 99.9% of all of our restoration, for the most part, is done here on this property. Some of it you can see, some of it you cannot. But upholstery shops, machine shops, we have a large building that we work in our driving wheels and for other museums as well.
Oh wow, there's no
The first thing we're going to do is you look over to your left, you'll see that building known as our Soul Shops, named after one of the two founding members of the Tennessee Valley Railroad Museum. That would be the second part of our tour. But the first thing we're going to do, first thing we're just going to do is stop some of the passengers off and the rest of you on the second stop. But when we do get stopped and you do exit the train, number one, please take your time. Take your time walking down those stairs. No show-offs. We're not timing you. No show-offs and doing swan dives off the top of the staircase. Please do not do that. We want you to get down in a timely fashion with no right? No Facebook. And
East
when I say
Chattanooga.
that, we all have, okay? So we want you to have a good experience. Safety is our number one rule for ourselves.
All right, we're gonna allow a few more people to make their way down to the table before I get started. You guys timed it right today. It's starting to warm up and it's a beautiful day. Congratulations. I'm not so sure I should say congratulations for me being to speak to you this time. I like it. Well, I guess time will tell if you do. Because all of us are qualified to do operations. So in every other trip, I was either cutting them off, spotting, which I did on the way in, or throwing the switch, or operating the table. But we're all qualified to do that. So we take our turn speaking, especially on Sundays when we don't have an assigned tour guide. And I did it for a long time. But sometimes I have to knock the rust off. Now I'm going to be finicky and get this table lined up. It tends to drift a little bit. That's a little bit better. But we will get it in alignment, which is, like you can imagine, very and highly important. To get it in alignment so our 630 can pull onto the table. I'll go ahead and get started, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to East Chattanooga. And first and foremost, our turntable demonstration. Now I understand there's nothing fancy about a turntable. It's not high tech. It doesn't have any bling on it. It doesn't have any, it's not very ornate, let's just put it that way. But it's extremely important, especially when we rewind all the way back to railroad history in its original beginnings. Turntables were originally designed to be used with the locomotive power of the day, and that would be steam. Now, steam locomotives were truly meant to run as far as long distances and at high speeds in a forward direction. Obviously, and you'll see when we get back to the other station, we'll back the locomotive up and recouple. But we have someone down there talking via radio, and occasionally, if we're close enough, hand signals. We have someone serving as the eyes, all right, so we can communicate. But they didn't always have that. So if they're going to go a distance in a backward direction, you can't see what's behind you. You can't see, it's not safe. Turntables were designed to turn these engines so that they could operate effectively and safely. When the diesel locomotive is introduced and the major railroads grab a hold of that technology as fast as they possibly could when they realized that diesel locomotives require less maintenance, and certainly they can travel at higher speeds if necessary, then you start to see the disappearance of many of the turntables located across this country. And as far as turntables are concerned, this is a pretty old turntable, built in 1916 by the American Bridge and Iron Company, which the town took its name from that company, Ambridge, Pennsylvania. Once completed, this turntable was taken to Macon, Georgia, south, and it was installed to be used with the Central Georgia Railroad's locomotive repair and maintenance shops. Central Georgia Railway would utilize this turntable there in Macon until about the 1920s era, when they would remove it, reinstall it in Cedartown, Georgia, south of Rome. And it was used with branch line service. A small turntable like this one would be used for branch line service. Could also have a roundhouse, a small facility there, until that facility was eventually, and the line in accordance, was abandoned. Now, it could have wound up like so many turntables that were cut up and scrapped, like so many hundreds and thousands of coaches and steam locomotives. We're fortunate. This turntable is 80 feet long. Steam locomotive about 185 tons or so. And the thing to remember about that, when I talk about weight today, Mr. Fields over here is going to be operating our motorized table. Apparently, he's stronger than we thought he was. In fact, he's so strong, he's going to operate this table using his one digit, his finger. So oh, and by the way, it's his birthday, so say happy birthday to Mr. Fields.
It's mine, too.
He's always in denial, ladies and gentlemen. Even though he's much, much younger than I am. So, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, think about turning, before it was motorized, that table by hand, because that's exactly what they were doing. You have to add both weights. You have to add the weight of the locomotive and the turntable. 4 generally in a crew, 4 on either end, poles extruding and extending from all 4 corners, and they would set out turning it. How in the world? It's an average school bus. Weighs about 3 tons. If that gives you an example of how heavy that is. Right here in the middle of the gauge, you can't see it because of the bridge plate, there's a bearing. It's about 6 feet in diameter. And as long as you get the weight of the locomotive balanced over the top of that bearing, it is possible to actually turn this table. It was known as an Armstrong table. So, if I need help later on turning the engine, if your last name is Armstrong, you're automatically volunteer, or voluntold, whatever it might be. At this time, we're going to bring Locomotive 630 onto the turntable. Ladies and gentlemen, built in 1904 by the American Locomotive Company at its Richmond, Virginia facility. It is built for the Southern Railway. Several hundred of its class, being a K class, it's a 280. That's talking about the wheel arrangement known as a consolidation. If you start counting wheel sets, 2 or more things that look alike. All right, you start looking at the locomotive, counting from the front pilot, those 2-liter pilot wheels. Behind those driving wheels, larger driving wheels, 4 apiece on both sides. That's 8, and absolutely 0 wheels underneath the cab itself. No trailing wheels. And we do have a true fireman up in the cab with the engineer hand firing that coal from the tender into the firebox. And by the way, 630 likes to eat a lot of coal. So you'll see the very far end of the table where I'm standing. Let me get out of the way. Drop down ever so slightly. Don't look around. Don't blink. You'll miss it. And here we go. Now, originally, this locomotive, after being built in 1904, was delivered to the Southern Railway and would operate on branch line service around the Knoxville area, known as the Knoxville Division. In until about 1952 when it sold to the East Tennessee and Western North Carolina Railroad. It was renumbered at that time with their numbering system 207. They operated it for many years. There's only two in existence. Ours here, the Tennessee Valley Railroad Museum, 630, and owned by the Great Smoky Mountains Railroad and currently under restoration, its sister, 722. After being sold to the East Tennessee and Western North Carolina Railroad and operating there for a number of years, in about 1967, you had the swapping of engines. They would give the East Tennessee North Carolina Railroad a couple of diesel locomotives, RS3s. And in fact, one of those is over there on the far end, 109. Look at that RS3 diesel locomotive over here on our side, or on our added track we added just a few years ago. So we have the swapper and the swappee, so to speak. We're going to line the turntable up with track 2. Currently, your coaches are parked there on track 1. After pulling off, it allows us to bypass your coaches. Once we get to the far end of the yard, there's a hand-thrown switch. One of our crew members will throw that switch, leading the locomotive out of track 2 to the main line. We'll switch it back, hand-throwing it. And we got it in alignment. Very good, Mr. Fields, and happy birthday. So that being said, ladies and gentlemen, he's going to pull the engine off of track 2. And if you want to see part 2, the sequel, of our tour today, meet me down at that last metal pole with the ropes attached to it. Don't cross over the walkway. We're going to have the engine run over the walkway. And then we'll, as soon as we clear up the crossing, I'll take you over to that tall metal building where you'll see quite a few locomotives on the way over, as well as coaches inside the shop and some of our projects currently. I'll meet you at that pylon.
See that room? Okay. Y'all fine. Just wait. See your brother?
Stabilize, that's a good word.
Damn. You seen that? You didn't see that.
I did.
Oh wow, look at that.
All of our visitors today. By the way, can everyone hear me? If you can't hear me, please let me know. I will use the microphone, but usually Usually, almost always, I don't have to because I have a built-in amplifier. That's good here, not so good everywhere else.
What else saying about that for?
With great power and loud voices come great responsibility. Welcome to our back shop facility, ladies and gentlemen. To get it over with, we'll go ahead and talk about why they called it a back shop. B-A-C-K. Right? A building where during the days, let's say steam locomotives were being used, they would have it set up where they could bring steam locomotives in, provide all repair, necessary maintenance. Now, the difference between then and now, alright, is yeah, we replace some parts, we do some maintenance, but we're more involved initially with restoration. For this and others. All the way back.
Hey, take this from me up here. Hurry up. Huh? Hold on, we ain't sitting here. There's no stop sign when you get on. Oh, dang. I can see the engine, but the camera ain't seeing it. Oh, I got it now. It was like going faster than it was coming. But the ride is shorter than when we went to, what you call it? Oh, we was going to do that other side. We'll do that next time we come up here. There's the tunnel again.
But that's so you people know who you are.
You want to eat lunch up here?
Where do you have to go to pick it up?
A mile outside.
This is the other side. Point of it. On the handle.
I ain't looking at the window. Why ain't I looking at the window?
It's just ain't too much on this side, but woods on this side, ain't it? Or you might see a bear or some elk or something. You might see some wildlife.
I'm telling you, there's a big old cat at the top of this. The day here today, over there, there's a big old
What cat?
cat. Really back in the back of the car, taking the internet and stuff like that.
Probably would. So I would have filmed it too. Got enough battery to do me a couple more videos. That's pretty. I like to find this. All right, folks, that's the end of the train ride. I'm in this video, start another video of other trains. Peace. There's the Batmobile, way up there.
Thank y'all for riding with us today, folks. Thank you so much. Be arriving in Chicago very shortly.